If you look at the relationship between U.S. and Africa, an offshoot of the last summit that was held in 2022, the African-U.S. Summit. Now, how significant, or what do you think would be the impact of this visit to this African countries, most importantly to Nigeria?
Yeah, for me, I don't see any significance in Blinken coming to Nigeria at the twilight of the administration, especially when the rating, as we speak, in the U.S. for their government is very low. So for me, this is a political visit, and that's the way I see it. You see, this is the way Americans do their politics, to make us feel as if we are important, as it's coming to election year. And so we need more of African votes, and we need African to rally around their politics and get a whole lot of support for them.
But I think this is beyond politics. Don't look at the,
you see,
look at the partnership.
Yeah, there's no partnership. If there's any, this is the 4th year of Joe Biden, and you understand, the 3rd year running to the 4th year. So election is this year, and the administration is timing out. If you value Africa, you should factor Africa into your policy at the beginning of your regime. And that's the only way for us to be able to see and then be hopeful that as they are coming, they are going to tie Africa into this. You see, government, as it were, in the U.S. is not like a continuum like people expect. You can imagine what all the things that Trump put in place while he was in government. Once Joe Biden came, all those things were not working. Those agreements didn't stand. Now, if you're going to sign an agreement with an African country, why are you doing it at the twilight of your administration when you are not even sure you are going to win the next election? This, for me, is a conversation, and I think this is where we are also going to appraise some of all these issues that, yes, the Secretary of State visits, he can come to Nigeria and we have those talk shops and go. How will this significantly affect Africa? That's the point I'm making. For them, it could be a positive for them because you have a lot of Nigeria as most enlightened people and saying, oh, you are not committed to Nigeria, you are not committed to Africa, and now you are going to go back to them and ask them for their vote. It's very easy for you to use this platform of this visit to pacify the Nigerian voting public in America to vote for your party, as it were. So for me, there's no significance of these things to Africa. You see, if it was 2 years ago, or last year even, we can be talking about significance. So this is what the Americans had done over years. There are a whole lot of areas where Americans can be of help to Nigeria. Take, for example, even in the area of data sharing. They have information about the crisis we are facing, but they've not shared with us. So these are the partnerships that you are talking about. Yeah, the government of America, but Nigeria could seek partnership with businesses in America. So what are we looking at? America is only concerned about their own interest within your interest. And I advocate this level playing field where, of course, there's mutual respect for countries and continents. And I also of the opinion that Africans should not be beggars in international diplomacy or looking for somebody to come from somewhere to come and help you. The solution is in our hands. And all we need to do is to prove that point that African has the key to his problem and not necessarily looking for any world power to come and bail you out.
But don't you think this visit will further strengthen investors' confidence? There are people who assume that, okay, Nigeria is battling with the issue of insecurity, and they assume, the killings are taking place virtually everywhere. But if the visit could, if it comes to Nigeria, it's a way to also let people know that, yeah, certain areas or Nigeria or certain places in Nigeria are still secured, unlike the perception some people have that, okay, virtually everywhere in Nigeria is not secure. Don't you think that will be of impact as well? Well,
what are we talking about? Before Blinken will come, Nigerian stock exchange market has been rated the best globally, beating Argentina with over 90,000 points. So investors already have confidence in what we're doing. And that's where those who are home will need to provide real genuine leadership. But my feel here is the fact that if you're going into partnership with people, you are not going empty-handed. You must also be able to show that you are doing something significantly very well. And I like the phrase that the vice president used at the recently concluded Davos meeting, that we should carry our poverty with dignity. That phrase resonates with me very well.
That's not possible. How do you carry poverty with dignity?
Yes, of course, you are not begging. And you are living within your means, and you are cutting your coat according to your cloth. That's what it is. So you have respect for yourself. So Africa needs to carry respect. It's not one foreign secretary coming to Nigeria, even if it's Joe Biden coming to Nigeria himself, who can actually use his green pen to sign up paper. It would be a different ballgame. Just sending a secretary to come to Nigeria is not something we should celebrate. As a matter of fact.
You seem to have dismissed the significance of this.
Completely. I don't see any significance in it because it's too close to the election in America, and the rating of the Democrats in America is so low, all year low, and therefore he knows that is a significant need of votes. That's my conclusion.
Aren't you seeing this just from one side, you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what significance it will bring. Because if he loses the election at the coming election, so what will this mean? Nothing.
Well, he's coming to visit not just Nigeria, there are 4 countries that
That's what I'm saying to you.
So is it the same thing or the same target for Nigeria as it is for other African countries?
Yeah, there's a whole lot that we as a people must understand about international diplomacy. Yes, you're just not coming to Nigeria. You have to design it as if it's an African interest. This is, for me, where the challenge is for us to even see that people are packaging something for you, and you are looking at this package and you are seeing as if it's a good gift for you. I don't see any significance in this visit, particularly, especially because it's too close to the election year. That is all. So if it were something that were genuinely intentioned, the visit should be before now. The conversation should be before now. There are a lot of things that we can talk about in terms of relationship, access to market. These are things that we can talk about. We need their support because they have higher technology to assist you with data, and especially in the area of fighting insecurity in Nigeria. But they have not provided any. So we need to see this good gesture presented, not just a man who's coming to negotiate on behalf of his own government, and we are all thinking that they are going to bring all that we need, that will take us out of where we are. So my own problem is that the key to our solution is in our hand. It's just to let those people who are in government realize that, look, we have to do things well. That if governance is put in place in Nigeria, for example, if we prioritize the nation, those people will be coming to beg us for support and not the other way around.
All right, let's move away from that. The UNDP is giving $1 billion innovation fund for African startups, particularly those in the IT sector. Now, how can Africans position themselves for this, and to what should we use this for?
Yeah, that's good development. UNDP, $1 billion to 1.3 billion people.
Startups.
How are we cutting it?
It's for startups.
For the 56 countries of Africa. Who is getting what? When and how? So we also look at this. It's good that they are encouraging us, and that is important for every businessman to do. Really, you know, you created a product, and then you need to train people who are able to help you maintain it. And this, for me, is what it is. Yes, startup fund coming to Africa. How is it going to be implemented? Who is going to apply what? We should be wary of these Western support, honestly speaking.
Is it about the Western support or what it will be channeled into? Now, this specifically is for innovation. Now, what kinds of innovation should be bettered from a fund like this? Yeah,
when we are talking innovation, innovation is a concept that tells you that a new way to do things. Okay? You are doing something differently, whether it's in farming, whether it's in technology, whether it's in services. And so you are looking for a new way to do things. So when you're talking innovation, innovation can happen in several areas. It can even be in the creative arts. So the question is, what exactly, in which area is this innovation targeted? Because it's not I don't fancy throwing money at a problem, because it never solves any problem. When you throw money at a problem, it doesn't solve problem. You see, money becomes very important when you're seeing creative people with creative energy who have done some great designs, and then they are looking for fund to support all these things. So then, of course, it can become meaningful. That we have a prototype of a phone, and then somebody is giving you money to commercialize it. It can be seen as something good. But when you look at what these guys are taking away from Africa, what they are taking away from Africa, and this thing they call assistance that they are bringing, it will just be fair for them to deal with us fairly, so we can generate our resources and solve our problem. Fairness in terms of trade, in terms of participation. So all these issues is, for me, what should be dealt with. Yeah, they keep counting that they are throwing money into Africa and the money is not yielding the results, because in the first place, I don't even think that the design is to create solution or results in African countries.
All right, when you talk, like you're rightly saying, when you talk about funds like this, the general concern has to be the fact that will this achieve the intended purpose? I remember the guest we spoke with yesterday talked about, some political SMEs, political small business owners, that this kind of fund usually channel towards them rather than the real players in the sector. What can be done this time around? Because the truth is, the startup, they need this kind of empowerment. I don't think they are throwing money at them, but it's a form of empowerment for them to also solve problems. So what can be done differently this time around to ensure that these startups, they get the money and then they provide the right solution that can drive a better society?
I think what we need to do first and foremost is for Africans to firstly reinvent themselves in terms of value. And until we reinvent ourselves in terms of value, you see, it's like sweeping dirt under the carpet. You have not removed it. So when this fund keep coming in, those who are privileged take advantage of these funds. And it really not get to the people who are really deeply very creative. And that is it, because of course we're a sovereign state. A cousin of mine told me a story in Lagos recently. One of the very respected member of REP was doing empowerment for some people in his constituency, and was to train them for 3 days and give them 100,000 for startup. 800 people. And that cousin of mine told me because he benefited. Now the question is that you need to ask him, did he really go for that program? No. And he told me, somebody just came and said, guys, something there. You attend this thing, 3 days they give you 100K, 40K is our own, 60K is your own. So a well-intentioned program is meeting with this kind of hiccup. There are real people who genuinely need this 100,000 for a small startup. But those real people, you can't see them. Because the political jobbers know how to aggregate people and then share the money between themselves and those people. And then they move ahead with life. So until we have to deal with the value issue in our environment, to be sure that when people are giving us resource, that we are actually using that resource for the purpose for which it is meant. And that is a real starting point. And I think this is where, for me, we need this African Renaissance, a reinvention of the value system for both who are the leaders and those that are led. That at both fronts, we are driven by high ethics, morality, and then, of course, compassion for one another. And that when resources are coming into the environment, it is getting to the right hand, and then the right values or appropriate values are added to the system. My take.
Now, let's look at the next story, talking about the federal government giving approval to increase in electricity tariffs. And the indication is that electricity subsidy, we are back there. Subsidy is back in the subject, it's going to go up a sum of 1.6 trillion in the year 2024. What's the reaction to this?
Very negative.
Why negative?
You see, there's so much theorization in our space. If we're talking about subsidy, what are we really subsidizing in electricity? Except that we are funding some people who keep telling us stories upon stories that are not implementable. We remember when Fashola was the Minister of Power, there was a marching order that if your house is not metered, don't pay electricity. Is it working? Why is this code refusing to meter people? This is a question that has to be settled. Let every houses be metered, and then we know what exactly people are consuming. Then we can know the inputs that come into it. And not people sitting down in the air-conditioned office and say, oh, this is our subsidy we are paying, and this is amounting to 1.3 trillion. This is the issue. Still boiled down to the issue of values. That people are just coming and saying, oh, we have a handicap. Everybody in Nigeria has a handicap, and therefore government must find something to solve handicap. Let the houses, the whole houses in Nigeria be metered, then remove whatever you call subsidy, so that people can take electricity the way they want it. And if we have not succeeded in doing this, and we are using ourselves to compare to societies that are getting 24-hour lights without blinking, and you are having community that has been 6 months, no electricity. Some get electricity 2 days before the month end so that they can share bill. And it's happening in this country. So these are the issues we have to tackle to actually be sure that these schools that are sharing estimated billings everywhere are themselves not the people who are talking about subsidy. Since over 5 years ago that this thing came into their hand, what are new additional thing had DISCO added to the infrastructure in electricity distribution and supply? The point I'm making is that it is for DISCO to first of all supply electricity to people. So when electricity is supplied, we can be talking about the tariff.
All right.
As of today, we don't have electricity.
Now the next approves the tariff. Shouldn't be on both sides. If you're approving tariff based on current economic realities, should it not also be balanced to ensure that DISCOs supply power that is commensurate with the new tariff?
This is not the first time tariff is increased. We have had this argument over the years, and it has never added value to the electricity supply. This is the issue. We have always had this argument. We need to improve cost of electricity, and then we value them in dollars. And we forget quickly that if American is selling electricity in dollars, because they're also paying their workers in dollars, we forget very quickly what inputs come in. So you cannot be doing international price comparison where the service offering are different, human resource offerings are different, and then you are doing a comparison and say, oh, because they are selling electricity this much in this place, therefore our own should be exactly amount. Are we rendering same service? That's the question. And this is what the people who are asking for tariff increment should be talking about, really. But you see, just the president had done, subsidy on petrol ended. Let them take it away completely. So people can begin to look for alternative and options. So that if there's no light, then there'll be no billing. But if this tariff, those who are approving the increment of tariff should also go back to the school to say, don't collect money from those who are not metered. That there'll be no estimated billing. So that nobody is cheated.
All right, before we go, let's take one last look at the story where the Vice President of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima, was saying in response to the World Economic Forum that Nigeria will be participating fully in global value chains. Now, is that feasible, and what should be the concentration as Nigeria prepares to participate fully in global value chains? Do we have an advantage in a particular area?
No, but I think the point that our very respected Kashima alluded to was the fact that Africa need to compete, and in the area where we should have a comparative advantage was in agriculture. And of course, we have not so much different the way we do agriculture today as we were doing it 100 years ago, still whole and cutlass kind of farming. And that's what we are still doing. And that if we must contribute to global economy, where we currently have a combined GDP of about 3.4 trillion, with a population of about 1.3 trillion, and the youngest demography globally, using Nigeria as a sample with an average age of 19, that there's so much we can do in that area. That we don't even need to focus on the high-end technology. That we can focus, African countries can focus on the, intermediate technology. At least to take energy away from this whole and cutlass that is demotivating young people from going into farming. And once you do that, and given the population that you have, that you're going to see that there's going to be a turnaround on Africans' contribution to the global GDP.